Alright, COVID killed this movie. Alright, that's all from me, folks. My name is Neelish. Whoa, wait, hold on. Let's go back a bit. I love it when Ben Affleck and Gavin O'Connor get together. Whether it's The Way Back or The Accountant, two unique movies. I love Gavin so much. He's directed two masterpieces in Miracle and The Warrior. The Warrior was a box office flop and turned out to be a cult classic, and I'm not sure if The Way Back gets the same praise. Listen, The Way Back is a searing look at alcoholism. Just searing. Pouring whiskey into a flask before and after a construction job. The scene when Affleck is talking to himself, figuring out whether he should take the coaching job, and going through copious amounts of frozen beer, yikes. But the scene after his friend's kid is in the hospital, and he couldn't handle the situation and went to the bar instead and had somebody carry him home at the end of the night is just, whoa. I guess there's also a comic one where he's so drunk trying to hook up with the girl, but he ends up in the wrong house and faces police charges. Leaving Las Vegas was disturbing, but I never really bought the two characters and kind of considered it a fantasy movie. Flight was another brutal look at substance abuse, but I think the FAA would probably catch on to Denzel, and Zemeckis' plane crash theatrics were so spectacular that when I think about Flight, I think about the scene a lot more than Whip Whitaker destroying himself. But in this movie, all I can see is a real person, Ben Affleck, who has had his fair share of personal struggles playing Jack, which is a role tailor-made for him. Amazing scope for acting. And two scenes especially, and both with his point guard and best player played by Brandon Wilson. First, in which he keeps climbing the bleachers and instigating Brandon to be louder when laying the plays, and eventually this leads to a blow up. The second is a car scene where soft-spoken Jack describes how he got himself into a downward spiral in life, whether it's his father or his kid who passed away. So subtle and well executed. I think if the pandemic didn't kill this movie, he'd have been totally nominated for Best Actor. Al Madrigal plays the assistant coach, and everything is perfect about him. The glasses, the stash, his friendliness and calmness, and his righteousness when he figures out that Jack has been bringing booze into his school. Janina Gavankar inexplicably plays Affleck's ex-wife, and all I can think about is Shiba Kamini Somakan Rakam from The League. Even though this is a one-man show, I think the real winners are Brad Inglesby and Gavin O'Connor. Inglesby might be one of my favorite writers, whether it's Mare of Easttown or Task. They could have made this movie with a lot of vulgarity, but they portrayed a devastating situation with a delicate hand. Sometimes the score would take over and the dialogue would take a back seat to somewhat soften the blow of the nastiness of the action shown. Unlike the disaster of the basketball scenes in The Winning Time, I thought the one game Gavin put in was executed very well, and it was a smart choice not to keep cutting back and forth, and instead he just shows the results of the squad to describe that Jack has turned around his team. But his efforts at the end of the day were somewhat in vain, depending on what angle you look at this movie from. Is this movie a fun hang such as Moneyball or Marty Supreme or Creed? Not really. But guys, please give it another look. I promise you will take something away from this. That's all from me, folks. My name is Neelish Balaji, and give your boy a like or subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye.